you go to the New York Times or the Washington Post, you will not, for about a year, find any references to the Durham investigation. John Durham he came to fame as one of the most aggressive prosecutors of the mob. Widely hailed on a bipartisan basis for being able to get members of the mob to crack and turn on each other and prosecute the mob, Durham is kind of a famous prosecutor. He became the U.S. attorney in Connecticut, and he was asked by William Barr, then the Attorney General, to begin an investigation into the background of the Steele dossier. And he has been very, very, very quiet. In fact, Durham has been so quiet for so long that a number of people in 2020 actually legitimately did think that he was selling out the Trump administration, that there were attacks against Durham for not doing anything. Well, it turns out he has slowly and methodically been building cases and now has a number of indictments that are out. Let me just read you from the New York Post. The Washington Post and the New York Times, they still are not covering this story. This is the editorial board of the New York Post. So there you have it. Russiagate, the collective delusion that Donald Trump was secretly a Russian agent, aided and abetted by the Kremlin, the topic of unaccountable inches of Washington Post and New York Times copy, and the entire primetime lineup of MSNBC was a dirty trick. Not just part of it, all of it. One of the most diabolical, successful misinformation campaigns ever conducted. It was by the Hillary Clinton campaign. We already knew the Steele dossier was garbage. Christopher Steele was paid indirectly by the Clinton campaign to dig up dirt, which he did by turning to other Clinton operatives, laundering every outlandish rumor about Trump he could find into an investigative document. He shopped it to the FBI, which couldn't verify his sources or any of his stories, but the agency dragged out the investigation to cast maximum suspicion on the new president. In the meantime, Steele found willing accomplices in the media to push his propaganda. The dupes at BuzzFeed even decided to print the whole pack of lies with the flimsy rationale of, well, why not? As special counsel John Durham outlines in his latest indictments, that was just a story made up by tech executive Rodney Jaffe that a computer server operated by Clinton's company was communicating with a Russian firm. Jaffe wanted a job with the Clinton administration. He hacked Trump's servers, cherry-picked privileged internet data he had access to, and molded it to look like something nefarious. He was coached by lawyer Michael Sussman, who was being paid by the Clinton administration, although he lied about that to investigators. Sussman goes to the FBI as a concerned citizen, not someone on the Clinton payroll, to try to get them to bite. The ultimate goal, be able to leak to the Times that Trump is under official investigation. Durham definitely showed that the Clinton campaign directly funded and ordered its lawyers at Perkins Coie to orchestrate a criminal enterprise to fabricate a connection between President Trump and Russia, says Kash Patel, the former chief investigator for the House Intelligence Committee. Now, what are these documents? Well, there's a federal filing. Representative Jordan of Ohio, Jim Jordan, says that John Durham is alleging in the filings that Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign paid an internet company to infiltrate servers at the Trump Tower. That's the allegation. Special counsel John Durham filed a motion related to potential conflicts of interest in connection with the case of Clinton lawyer Michael Sussman. The lawyer has pled not guilty to making false statements to federal agents. Durham's motion reportedly alleges Sussman, quote, had assembled and conveyed the allegations to the FBI on behalf of at least two specific clients, including a technology executive at a U.S.-based internet company and the Clinton campaign. Among the accusations leveled was the suspicious DNS lookups by Trump-affiliated or Russian-affiliated IP addresses demonstrated Trump and his associates were using supposedly rare Russian-made wireless phones in the vicinity of the White House. By the way, it appears that the spying by the Democrats on Trump went on after he was in the White House. Now, these are filings. We see where Durham is headed. He's gotten some indictments thus far. It appears more indictments are coming. But have you heard any of this from the New York Times or the Washington Post or any major non-Fox outlet? The answer is no. No, you have not. This is from Fox News, former Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe met with Special Counsel John Durham on more than one occasion and told him there was evidence in intelligence to support the indictments of multiple people in his investigation. Fox News first reported on Durham's latest filing, which alleges that lawyers from Hillary Clinton's campaign had paid to infiltrate servers belonging to the Trump Tower and later the White House in order to establish an inference and narrative to bring the federal government agencies into the Trump world looking at Russia. Sources tell Fox News this week that during his meetings with Durham, Radcliffe, who served as a congressman and former U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Texas before becoming the head of national intelligence, said he believed there was enough evidence to multiple people. The sources pointed to one key piece of declassified information Fox News reported in October of 2020, revealing that intelligence community officials within the CIA forwarded an investigative referral on Hillary Clinton, purportedly approving a plan concerning U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump and Russian hackers hampering U.S. elections. It is important for us to note a few things here. One, the Russians did try to interfere with the presidential election, regardless of what the Steele dossier says, doesn't say, or made up. The Russians tried to interfere, not in the way the Democrats claim. The Russians wanted to sow discord in 2016. The Russians wanted Democrats and Republicans at each other's throat. They played both sides. You know, CNN back a few years ago showed up at a woman's home in Florida. It was a grandmother. She had put on her Facebook page about a rally, an anti-Hillary rally coming to Florida. And the CNN reporter showed up at her home, shoved a microphone in her face, and wanted to know, didn't you know it was Russian propaganda? Why were you helping the Russians? This grandmother had no idea. I don't think she even remembered putting the post up on Facebook. It turns out that this anti-Hillary propaganda protest was a Russian psyops operation. Anyone who showed up would have been there. They were trying to organically organize protests against Hillary Clinton. The Russians were putting this stuff up on Facebook, making it look like people were going to show up to protest her. But you know what? This is what CNN left out. They did the same thing about Donald Trump at the same time. They did. The Russians were doing the same to both sides. They wanted each side at each other's throat. They wanted us so inwardly distracted that we couldn't deal with them. And now look at the situation in Ukraine. We've looked so inwardly. The Russians are out there expanding their reach and doing God knows what and probably about to invade Ukraine. The Russians were successful, but it's completely separate from, not joined with, and has nothing to do with the Steele dossier. For 4 years, members of the media obsessed about the Steele dossier. Members of the media decried the Steele dossier. They treated it as gospel truth. They didn't run away from it. They embraced it. They quoted it. They questioned allegations about the P-tape. You know what I'm talking about, and more. And it was a fabrication. The distrust of the American media continues to grow in this country, pretty significantly, actually. The distrust in this country about the media has been going on for some time, but it's gotten far worse than it has been in the past. The media, in fact, I dare say, lacks the humility to be self-reflective, feels like they are righteous at all times, believes that they can bully, badger, cajole, and preach without anyone holding them accountable, and lashes out and comes after anyone who dares to hold them accountable. The media turns on anyone who would suggest maybe the media should have a little bit of self-reflection. And so it comes as no surprise that with these Durham indictments and Durham motions and filings that are easy to navigate, easy to digest, and easy to understand what he's claiming, you're not hearing major national media outlets other than Fox News cover this. Now, the corollary here is that there are some on the right who are making more out of it than not. There are some on the right making way too much out of it, as if it was some sort of sinister plot to control computers, and then they extrapolate from that obviously if they could do that, they could control the election outcome, they could rig the machines and get the machines to cast Biden. There's nothing in the documents about that, and it would be technically impossible if you know how the machines work. But that won't stop speculators. We should at least keep things reasonable as to where it actually is. It appears that the Hillary Clinton campaign had multiple people going to the FBI, not claiming they were with the Hillary Clinton campaign, claiming they were representing other people, and those people had concerns. And then they were leaking the information to members of the media that they had gone to express concerns, knowing that by expressing the concerns, the FBI would have to look into them, and then they could say, the FBI is looking into Donald Trump. The larger takeaway story here, for me at least right now, is that the Durham investigation continues, but also how easily the media was willing to be played by the Clinton campaign, unquestioned. Had no doubt about it. No surprise, no questioning, no probing, just took it at face value. That right there is probably the most damning part of all of this. That they were willing to embrace the full-on Hillary Clinton narrative, that they were willing to take whatever her campaign leaked to them as gospel truth. There were people within the FBI willing to collaborate it, people who were liberals and didn't like Trump, willing to undermine the integrity of the FBI to stop Donald Trump. And also, that the Durham investigation is continuing to find and put things together. And you know, one of the things they're putting together is that Jake Sullivan, who's now Joe Biden's national security advisor, was in the Clinton campaign and one of the people pushing these talking points from the Clinton campaign. And you know who John Durham's boss is, the one who's overseeing John Durham's work? Jake Sullivan's wife. Shouldn't she be recusing herself? Where's the media questioning why Jake Sullivan's wife is not stepping back to allow Durham to not be impeded? Is she impeding him? We don't know. Durham says nothing. But certainly there's a conflict of interest there. Can you imagine if one of Donald Trump's executives' wives were in charge of an investigation over Donald Trump? What the media outrage would be? Why is the national media so quiet on this? Could it be that they all fell for it and they would have to admit they were played?